Hi guys, it's Mary. Welcome back. I think you probably guessed it by now. I did a collaboration with Sydney Grace. I did. The Blessed palette goes on sale Wednesday, June 7th at 8 a.m. Pacific time. I think it's also the same as Mountain time. 10 a.m. Central and 11 a.m. Eastern, and it will sell for $52 US. You can save 15%, bringing it down to $44.20 if you use my code Glitzy Fritzy, all one word. I do not make money when you use that code. It's just for you guys to save. I just don't want you guys to think that I promote that code so that I can make money. However, I do get a commission on the palette itself, and I thank you in advance so much if you do that. Now on with the show. So you might be asking yourself, how in the world does a channel my size end up with their own palette? And I'm going to tell you that it was mostly you. About 8 months ago, I did a video called Tropicolor Palette and the Fancy Face by Sydney Grace. This was sent to me in PR for Tina, and I did 3 looks. And then what happened next was something totally unexpected. I believe that right here is our little culprit. Kimberly, woman, I love you. I mean, she's so good to me, always, as many of you are. But anyway, she says, beautiful look, Mary. Dang it, woman, we need to be premiering the Sydney Grace Glitzy Fritzy palette. Just saying. Love the new palette in you. And then there's 27 replies. I come back with this, haha. But then Lisa Pierce jumps in and she says that would be awesome. And then they talk about it and they decide, the two of them, that they're going to rustle everybody up to go send an email to Sydney Grace. And so Dawn and Sharon, and these are just some people coming off the top of my head. Okay, Lori, you can read all of this yourself. So many of you. If you see one that has like 3 or 4 or something on there and you look at that, you will see people saying, yes, that's a good idea. Yeah, I'm going to go do that. I'm going, oh my gosh, no, shh, be quiet. Don't tell nobody. No. Because I'm scared. I'm afraid of 2 things. One, of my ability. I'm not a makeup artist. I don't make eyeshadows, I just put on eyeshadows and I know what I like. And the other thing is I'm like, oh my gosh, Sydney Grace is going to be like thinking I put everybody up to this, right? And they'll be mad at me and whatnot. What happened was I got an email from Laura who said, here's Heather's number. Please text her. She wants to talk to you. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So this is what I'm thinking, that Sydney Grace is going to be thinking, that I sicked the Fritzy family on them, right? So I'm like, oh no. So I text her. I'm like, it's Mary from Glitzy Fritzy. Laura said you wanted to talk to me. So they said, we would like to do an eyeshadow palette with you. And I'm like, what? Oh my gosh. And my first thought was say, oh, thank you so much. No. I mean, I sat on this text for a few minutes. I didn't come right back because I'm like, I'm scared. Now, Mel thought I could do it. You guys obviously thought I could do it. And so I'm like, Lord, is this you? I need God to be on board with it. And I just got a peaceful feeling talking with Heather. So I asked her outright because I knew that this was going on in the comments section. So I'm like, are you doing this because you want to do it? And they said, well, to tell the truth, they wanted to do it. They had actually seen a video where I had said that, a dream of mine was to someday have a palette with Sydney Grace. And it wasn't anything they were going to ask me right away because they're super busy. But when they got the emails from you, Fritzy family, when you went to bat for me, they said something along the lines of, we need to do this now. And so they reached out to me. So this is the card that I designed. I don't know which one they're going to choose, but it's what I want you to know about the palette. So I'll read it to you. I don't have it to show you because they needed to put all the dates and stuff on it. And I got my palettes first, obviously. So what it says is, on August the 19th, 2020, I asked the Lord in accordance to his will for my palette collaboration with Sydney Grace. That very day, I began designing what my someday palette would be if he blessed me with it. Over the last couple of years, I've finalized the names, colors, fonts, etc. and waited for Sydney Grace. What came next is this. My most treasured and reached for everyday neutrals with signature pops of color. I want to thank you for the most important part that you've played in my life. And I've prayed that you are blessed beyond measure in yours. Remember, you are a blessing. So believe it. Go be a blessing. and fulfill it. And I didn't truly understand how this process worked. In my brain, I don't understand. I tell you, okay, I want like a green and I want it to kind of be like this. And then you just know what to do. I can't fathom that. And my brain says, I got to show it to you. So I actually sat in here and I mixed all of the colors together from other shadows that I have, and I mixed it in this. You can see that it's all stained up from mixing eyeshadows. And trust me when I tell you, I had pigment everywhere in here and drug it all over my carpets and oh my gosh. And so I'm like scraping eyeshadows in my collection and I'm mixing them up with alcohol, and I bought pans and I panned it, and then I took the Be Mine, popped all of the shades out. Here it is right here. Then I sent it to Sydney Grace with these shades, not these because this is a brand new one. It's not been touched. They replaced it for me, but I sent my Be Mine and I like typed out and put all the shade names under them. And trust me, it's crude. I got a whole new respect for Heather at Sydney Grace. But it was hilarious because what I sent them was a palette with all the shades in it. This is what I want. This is what I want to be named. Just so anybody who has a super keen eye will know, the shade Pita that's shown here in the original is a forest green. But during the process of making the palette, I decided to change that shade to something else. I would have loved to have been there when they got it. Because it'd be like, yeah, that's not the normal process, but thanks. A long time ago, the first thing I knew that I would do was call this palette Blessed. I showed her a picture of these poofs of smoke of color with the word blessed and gold foil. I want to make clear and give credit where credit is due here. I showed them a concept of this, not these colors. They changed the colors to the colors of the palette, and that reinforces and makes you instantly understand that the smoke is from the eyeshadows. And I just thought that was brilliant, and I love it. And then, of course, Sydney Grace times Glitzy Fritzy. Inside the palette, there is a mirror, of course. The first shade in here is called My Savior. And I knew that My Savior, because of Kelsey, would not look the way I wanted it to look on somebody with darker skin. And so we have a deeper version and a lighter version of this palette. I want this palette to be something that's easy to use. I want this palette to be something that the formula can be patted on or blended out to be neutrals that people would use in the 50+ age group. I mean, I know that the young girls are going to love some of these pops of colors, but I wanted 50+ crowd to actually say, I can do this palette. Even with these pops of color, I can do this palette. Yet I needed to stay true to myself, and that's going to involve these colors here. Now that I've told you this very long story, let's look at the shades. My Savior, warm matte light tan with a slight pink undertone. Be a Blessing, warm shimmer champagne with a slight pink undertone. Sugar Tiger, warm pink pressed pigment. Pulp Nongi, neutral white shimmer with a slight sheen. Little Bit, warm mauve matte with a neutral undertone. Shy Guy, warm purple pressed pigment with a blue shift so that it leans cool. My Buttercup, neutral to warm sage green pressed pigment with a gold undertone. So Mary, neutral to warm grass green pressed pigment with a gold undertone. Pita, cool leaning medium brown matte. Cinnamon Girl, warm orange brown matte. FritzyNESS, cool blue green pressed pigment. Irish Heat, neutral red brown with a green shift. High School BFF, cool light silver pressed pigment. Emmy After 60, medium dark gray matte. Family, warm medium dark matte. Only 5 of the 15 shades needed to be changed to accommodate deeper skin tones. My Savior, Pita, Cinnamon Girl, Me After 60, and Family. You might notice that the palette is broke up into mattes and shimmers or pretty pops of color. But what you might not be noticing is that this shade is also a matte, but it's not over here with the others, and that's because the Lord has to take the first spot in the palette in my life. And also, like a couple other shades in here, it has a double meaning. This shade saves me all the time. You know what this is? This is the old Wet and Wild Creme Brulee. I was so sad when they discontinued that shade, and I had one left. one left that I had never opened. This is Brulee, which was brought out and is lighter than Creme Brulee. Creme Brulee was the perfect eyeshadow to blend out other eyeshadows, to go over your eye if you don't want to wear an eyeshadow for my skin tone. So I had one package of it from when it went out and I crushed it up. I put half of it back so that when they made the shade, I could test it when it came in against the original. That's how important this shade was to me. The next shade is Be a Blessing. It was the last shade to be finalized and it was all my fault because what I was going for was Tom Ford's Nude Dip. That shade right there. The first shade in this palette. One of these days, I'll be done with this palette and I don't know if I can pay $88. So there it is, right there. Oh my gosh. Well, I wasn't about to crush that up and send it. So I sent a different shade that was close, almost there, but it had a pinkish undertone to it. So we kept going back and forth. She's trying to match the one I sent her. And I'm thinking in my head, like I always do, that she knows I want this, not that. So there it is. Very close. But if you're looking at this and you're in my seat and you're looking at this, you can still see a pink undertone to it. Just a little bit, but it's there. So it's champagne like that, but it has a slight undercast of pink to it. And I wanted to be done with pink. So I'm like, wait, let me play with it for a little bit. On the lid, it looks exactly the same. If you put Tom Ford's Nude Dip lightest shade on your lid and then you put this on the other one, you can't tell the difference. But leaving that slight, very slight pink undertone makes it go with this palette so much better, I think. The next shade is Sugar Tiger, and I put them together as one word on purpose. Sugar Tiger, because when a man and woman marry, they become one. It is my mom, who is Sugar, and my dad, who is Tiger. But I have put the capitals the way they are so that you would recognize that it is two words, Sugar and Tiger. For my mom and dad, it is my mother's favorite color. My dad's favorite color is red, but I'm not going to put a red in my palette. But what is a very, 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 very light red? The next shade, you're probably wondering how you say that. It's not a real word. It's a family word. And this is for all of our kids. It's popnongi. And the reason that it's white is because it means popcorn. Our youngest child couldn't say the word popcorn and it would come out popnongi. So this has been a family word for over 20 years. I mean, I think a white is a very important shade. I wanted it to be a shimmer, but just a little bit of a shimmer. I wanted something that was a cross between a shimmer and a matte. And that's what this is. And the reason is because I wanted this to be a transforming shade. Just like in that It Cosmetics palette that there used to be. It was like pink on the outside. That palette had a shade in there called the Transformer. And what that shade was for was to kind of dumb down other shades or make them lighter or turn it into a totally different shade. And that's why popnongi's in here. The last shade on the first row is a matte, and it is Little Bit. If you're already part of the Fritzy family, you've heard me say this a few times on my channel. Little Bit is my sister. It's what my dad called my sister, Little Bit. And this is her signature shade. Shy Guy is this beautiful, cool purple with a blue shift. Love it. Shy Guy gets mesmerized by this kind of a thing, you know. I wanted cool, warm, neutral all through this thing. And not just warm, cool, neutral, but warm, cool, neutral that works together. My Buttercup is Mel's shade because I would call her my Buttercup. And whenever we would talk in the morning and I'd say, "What's up, Buttercup?" Now, I realize some people may be here who don't know who Mel is. This is Mel Thompson. She was a YouTuber here. She was one of my most precious BFFs. And when Mel did this, I told her. I knew that Mel would understand the dream and how much I love Sydney Grace. And she said, well, of course you can. Of course you will. So I told her, if I ever get a palette, I am going to make a shade in it for you. I even told her what it was going to be. So I love that Mel, even though she's not here, she knew that when this happened, and she believed it would, when this happened someday, that there would be a shade in it for her, and that I'd already called out and told her what it was gonna be. I wanted Buttercup to come from Mel's palette. I wear Mantis a lot. Mantis is one of the shades that she loved the most, but above it, she would go gaga over Fire Butts. She just thought Fire Butts was so yummy. And I would always take this, all right, and I would put it down. Look how pigmented that is. And then I would take Fire Butts and go over it. This is my Buttercup. I just know that Mel's looking down and she's just so proud and happy. It's right here. And it plays beautifully with my favorite green in So Merry. This is kind of a grass green with a gold undertone. Look at that. These are beautiful. They're what I have on my eyes today. Everyone who's already part of the Fritzy family knows what that shade is. Peta? Peta? Peta is the camera who is constantly going out of focus at the crucial moment and makes me mad. This is a cool medium brown. If you like the Enduring Love palette and you like the shade Cherish, this isn't as dark as Cherish, but this is a phenomenal color. I love this so much. Next to that is Cinnamon Girl. Cinnamon Girl has to be cinnamon. Most of you know that Michelle, Cinnamon Girl Beauty, had a channel here. She's not doing it right now. Michelle is one of my closest BFFs. I would bet money that Michelle is even more over the moon about makeup than I am. FritzyNESS, which is at the end of every video and has been, I think, since the very beginning of my channel. I take all of those random start singing in the middle of things and things that happen in the middle of the video that most people don't appreciate, and I grab them up, put them at the end, speed them up, and it's called FritzyNESS. What? Yeah. Okay, so this is a combination of 3 shades that exist in the Sydney Grace line. And when I want this color, this is what I'm going for. These are the 3 shades I mixed together for your convenience in one called FritzyNESS. Next, we come to Irish Heat. This is a double meaning shade. It's also the only shade in here that pre-exists at Sydney Grace. And no, I didn't intend to copy Mel, but I did. This is Sydney Grace's Red Chameleon, or Tiny Marvel's Scarab. And I said, I hate to copy Mel. I hate to pick a shade you already sell, but this shade here is what I've always had in mind. Maybe we could change the color of the green a little bit. So they did, but I didn't like it. Ultimately, we went back to Red Chameleon, and that's what Irish Heat is. Ooh, so buttery. I'm sure you're familiar with it. If you start up here, it's green, but as you work your way down, it turns to a reddish brown, making it an ideal one and done shade. Now, the reason that that shade had to be in here is because Irish Heat is my brother. This is his nickname for when he was in the Army. All of his Army buddies have always called him the Irish Heat because they think he's Irish. We thought we were too. We figured out that no, we are Scottish. We are not even half Irish. So the double meaning is that because this shade is green and somewhat reddish, I mean, I said in the video red, but it's obviously not red. It reminds me of our Scottish tartan colors and the color of what used to be my Bubba's hair. The next shade is High School BFF. I talk about her all the time, and her favorite color is gray. This shade is in honor of her, and will you look at that? I just think that grays and silvers are so beautiful on a mature woman, especially if you've gone gray. I just love it. This is inspired by the Too Faced Chocolate Gold palette. There's a shade in there called Dripping in Diamonds, and that's what I was going for. And by the way, as I'm saying this, all of these shades, as you'll see, can be dumbed down to just have a barely there look. So don't be afraid of these colors. Now the next one is definitely a double meaning shade. ME after 60, or me after 60. That's the double meaning. ME after 60. Who does that make you think of? Mary Ellen after 60. That's her channel. Her favorite shade is gray. Mary Ellen truly is like a big sister to me. She's an advisor, my shoulder, the person that I've known the longest on YouTube. ME after 60 isn't trying to be the star of the show. It's just there to support everyone else. And like the next shade, it's part of almost every single look because it's an outer corner dimensional shade. And the reason that's double is because gray has become more me than black after the age of 60. It's what's on the outer corner of my eye and underneath my eye. And the last shade, certainly not the least, is you. Fam-Illy. This has been something that has purposefully been spelled and said exactly like this, Fam-Illy, to differentiate between my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother, that family. This is the Fritzy family. And the reason that family is spelled this way is because you are my fam, my YouTube fam, dash I-L-E. Okay, I'm just seeing if you're awake. That's a Y, always has been. Is I love you. Fam, I love you. In this video, I have 11 looks that you can do with this palette. So I want you to see the range of the palette. I want you to have inspiration for the palette in easy looks before it even goes on sale so that you know confidently that you're going to be able to do what you want with it. The first one, I'm going to be talking you through it. I consider it an everyday. I know from listening to you guys that a lot of you consider it to be the everyday kind of look. I'm counting the first look as 2 because I'm doing a minimal and what I think of as regular eyeshadow look. So there's 2 looks in that. But then the remainder of them, I've actually named them and I'm showing you briefly what you can do. So we're going to start today with my savior. And I'm just going to run that, of course, like I always do, from the crease up. I'm going to dip into Cinnamon Girl, and I'm going to use that as a transition, and I'm just tapping across. And I'm doing a darker, more intense of the same eye over here because some of you have said, you know, Sydney Grace eyeshadows are so intense, I don't know how to get them to appear lighter. So that's what we're doing. I'm just going in more concentrated. On this side, I just tapped. I am going to tap just a little bit more. Tap, tap, tap. Using a smaller blender, I'm going to dip into Fam-Illy and over here, because I've got a lot on there. See, that was just a tiny bit. And I'm going to dip down again. And then run it through the crease. And just keep working my way inward with it. Now, what you can do to get it lighter is dip down and then just kind of wipe it off on the back of your hand a little bit and just pat. Don't blend, pat. Now we're going to use the Mel brush. It's the 21 from rephr, and we're going to dip down into Be a Blessing. And just like that on Be a Blessing. And then I'm going to come on this eye and tap across just one time. And there you go. Now I'm going to swipe through it and come over to the other eye. Or you could take your finger into it, which I almost always do, and pack it down. Because I'm all about that intense. I love that. And I'm going to take a little bit more Fam-Illy and just pat it on the outside, right on top of Be a Blessing. So it looks more gradient. I'm going to take a little brush. This one is the 29. I'm going to dip into Fam-Illy and bring that under my eye. Liner and mascara. So you see, every eyeshadow in here can be done the same way. If you want a more minimal eye, you don't want to be boom, then do it this way. And if you want to be like me and be like, no, look at that eyeshadow, then do it this way. So I just want to say thank you again from the bottom of my heart. Let you know, as always, you are the best part of the Fritzy family. And to tell you that if you're not having a blessed day, you can be blessed. All you have to do is be a blessing to somebody else. And until next time, love you, see ya. Bye. And I'm out.
I feel so under the gun, under pressure. Do. I wanna dance with somebody. I wanna feel the heat with somebody. I'm not just. Don't stop believing. Hold on to that feeling. The most looked. It's gonna be the most looked look. Looky loo. There's just not enough cool to go around, is there? Hey, whoa, yeah, you make my dreams come true. Ooh, ooh.